Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Super Anime Bros podcast. As always, I'm your host, Rosario, joined by my brother, Angelo. And today we're going to talk about something we love.
Welcome back, everybody. So we're going to have another discussion today.
Yeah, audible from what our original plan was.
Yeah, well, I'm just trying to, pad out some time here for me to get better notes for next week.
Nah, sounds good. The double audible, actually, 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
But it's fun, we get to kind of think on the fly a little bit more.
Yeah, we're busy guys, so we haven't had
good,
as much time to prepare,
Yeah. But no, I think it's good to just be able to have discussion-based episodes and kind of just talk rather than present information always. I think it might spice it up for our listeners. You can agree or disagree, listeners.
Yeah, let us know.
Wait, you didn't let the listeners answer. Listeners? No, I can't hear anybody. Okay, go ahead.
They said that they like it, that they're just, supportive of anything
thanks,
we want to do.
guys.
They're just here for the Super Anime
That's
Bros.
so kind.
So today we're going to talk about a late game.
Something we love.
Yes, something we love. It's funny.
Thank you.
We're talking romance anime today.
One.
We're going to talk about if we prefer the romance to happen in the beginning of the show or in the middle, or would we prefer it to be the finale?
Yeah, I think generally probably most shows are, finale type romances. But there certainly are some examples of others. And I was just thinking this to myself the other day. I remember we were sitting watching a romance with one of our buddies, and he was like, is this could just keep going? Like it ended in season 1 and there's a ton more content. And I was like, well, yeah, this is kind of how it goes always. We just wait and wait and wait. And then eventually, hopefully they get together, but it takes a lot of time usually.
Yeah, that can be a whole different debate whether you prefer a long or a short show.
Yeah.
But I'd say traditionally most shows it's the finale, so that's why we've grouped early to middle of the show as one thing.
Yeah. Basically, does the show end after they get together, or does it continue and there's more?
Yeah, there is a spectrum. Some shows there'll be a little bit at the right after the end, but we still count that as the end.
Yeah, I wouldn't talk about an epilogue or extra content. If any big story beats are wrapped up with the getting together, I think that qualifies.
Yeah,
personally.
Absolutely. So we took down some examples of both. So spoiler warning for some of these. We're not going to explicitly talk about who gets with who, how exactly it ends, but more so
you'll know when.
Yeah, it's going to happen more towards the ending, which some of these shows aren't even finished yet, so we're just speculating at this point.
That's fair.
If there's ever going to be a romance.
One of them we'll talk about. God knows if it'll ever end. Truthfully.
Yeah. So we're talking the romances that end with or finales that end with the romance. The first example I thought of, which is you've said it a billion times, the gold standard for just rom-com standard romance is Toradora.
Have we talked about that one before?
Toradora? We have. Check it out. I don't know which episode it is, but we did a whole deep dive on it.
Nice plug.
Yeah, it was a really good episode, but this is a show, it doesn't happen in the beginning. I don't want to ruin what happens at the end, but it really does end just in that standard way, a confession. There's a little bit at the end, and then boom, show's over.
Yeah,
and I don't have any complaints with that.
I would agree that that's a pretty solid example of it. I guess I don't know where my mind initially goes to when I think of something like this.
That was the first thing I thought.
For me, this is the one that I think of just because it's endless. You know what I mean?
Well, then, talk about it, man.
An endless gauntlet, as one might say. And I think maybe it's also top of mind because we met the main voice actress, English voice actress, over the weekend at a convention. Had a lot of fun. Check out our Instagram post.
Good plug.
Thank you. Plug God over here. But I think Rent a Girlfriend is when I think of, and it's not over yet, and there's no confession, and we're really, really deep into both the anime and the manga.
Yeah, you're telling me.
But it keeps going, and I think that a lot of people don't like it. A lot of people hate on it. A lot of people have just grown tired of it. But I enjoy it. Like, I think that, and we can talk about this when we talk about pros and cons, but like, more of a good thing is a good thing sometimes, you know?
Yeah, and with Rent a Girlfriend specifically, I feel like it's still constantly progressing. Like, there's some points like where I'm like, all right, like, something should be happening here, but there's still something happening.
Yeah.
Without spoiling anything.
I mean, look, if this guy's gonna eventually date somebody whom he rented as a girlfriend, like, you're gonna have to climb out of a pretty deep hole.
Yeah, he did start like way below zero.
Yeah, like you're right. Like, that is below surface level. Like, he was underground.
It would be a lot quicker for him to just find some random person on the street and fall in love with them.
Yeah. And that actually, this show makes me think of another, and we can talk about the pros and cons, but like, when there's like another love interest in between the main two love interests, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like when your show
You had a love triangle, and then
when they're not dating in the beginning, it does allow much more room for shenanigans too.
yes, for sure.
Which I'm usually a fan of.
For sure.
I'm not going to complain.
No, I agree.
But yeah, Rent a Girlfriend, maybe that'll be one of those shows.
And I mean,
or
it
maybe
has
it'll
to
just
be, I
be
feel.
the most disappointing thing in the world where
we're getting
there is no romance.
close to 400
And
chapters,
it just
which
never
is
happens.
absolutely
Or
absurd.
like, they're just planning for it to be the longest series ever. They're going to get together and then there's going to be like a whole nother 30 books of it.
Like, it has surpassed 350 chapters.
It's the One Piece of romance anime.
I like that.
But
I like
people
that.
actually like One
Like,
Piece.
what is? Go ahead and start talking about
I'd
another
say,
example.
okay,
I'm gonna start.
I was going to
Well, no, riff. Do whatever you do.
backtrack
You.
my analogy because I would not say that.
I'm gonna look at some popular manga and see like how many
I
chapters.
do not want to say that Rent a Girlfriend is on par with One Piece in any way. It's just
Okay.
also
no.
very
Fair
long,
statement,
is
fair
what I was saying.
Yeah, there's like one.
It does
piece
not
to that
have the
analogy.
world building or anything like that.
Jujutsu Kaisen ends 271 chapters.
That's not a romance.
I'm just thinking of like more stuff that people would know. My Hero Academia had 430. I'm
That
just
is
thinking
a
of things that
longer
ended
series.
recently. That was really long, but we're talking a show that's got 7 seasons.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and what are we at now in Rent a Girlfriend?
See, Dr.
We're gonna be
Stone's
season
over now.
4.
232. Like, Assassination Classroom comes up right on the Show to Jump app. 185.
So Rent a Girlfriend's long is what I'm hearing, and still cooking.
Bokuben 187.
But I'll keep talking about talk about the next example is Fruits Basket, and this is my favorite romance of all time, and that is more of a traditional where, like, in the last 10 episodes, it's like advertised as the finale. It's like half a season,
Yeah.
and that's when everything really gets to develop there, and that's my favorite like ending of a show. So.
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
that's a great example of the romance being the finale.
Yeah. Way to call your example a great example.
Well, I'm saying
I'm just
it is
messing-
a
I'm
great
just
example. The first two I put are like
I'm in a
complete
joking
great
kind of mood
examples.
tonight.
That's good.
No, you're right. You're right. I think that's another great example of a potential other challenger that takes up some time in the runtime. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Throughout, it's like what's going to happen here.
Yeah. You get
Which,
a little bit more of a look.
yeah, I mean, I do like that as an option.
Yeah.
Another option of which one are they going to pick? The quintessential quintuplets.
Yeah, that is definitely a who we're gonna choose.
Yeah,
kind
like
of thing.
and that show could not have happened. Well, technically, it does start off with the wedding, so the romance
Wow.
is in the beginning.
When you look at it
it's
that
really just the whole show's a prequel.
I guess, yeah. And that's different than some of the other ones in a big way. And I mean, I guess that's true. Of like,
I like that because it's like, all right, so it's not they're not going to throw some like
No, I agree. I think that's great.
where like he's like decides he doesn't want to marry any of them.
Like-
We know he's married to one of them.
Yeah,
But yeah, that had to be a finale kind
Yeah,
of show.
for sure.
Because, you need a lot of time to develop all 5 of these potential love
Yeah,
interests. And
some more than others. Sure.
now this one, they have added some bonus content taking place
Yeah,
after
that does not count
the
at
love
all.
confession, but I wouldn't,
No,
That's just like
it's
bonus
not even
stuff.
available on streaming.
It's not, even in the manga. But I'm just saying it's nice to have some
For sure,
some bonus
for sure.
content there.
What I was gonna say is this is different than some of the other ones. Like a lot of the other romances, okay, it takes a long time for them to get together, but you kind of know who the couple's gonna be.
Yeah, usually within like the first episode or first 3 episodes,
You know, you just got to look at the poster. For this, like, obviously, you're spending the whole time you don't know, and then it's revealed at the end, which I think adds to, you know, how grand.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that when we do the deep dive of it. But yeah, like I don't know. You don't know.
No, yeah, you
They
don't know
definitely
at
do
all.
have like an initial like meet cute with a specific character, but then you develop all the time with the other girls.
Yeah, without a doubt.
So yeah, that one's a great example. You want to talk about the next one? It's kind of similar and one of your favorites. So.
Yes, yeah, we never learned Bokuben. I guess it's funny that I just said, "Oh, that one's so different." Like you don't do it to the end. Whereas this
Very similar.
is very similar, yeah. In that
5 potential love interests.
there's 5, yeah, 5. That's great. That's a big number. And yeah, you don't really find out to the end. Now, I will make the argument that, and this actually, maybe I've talked about this before on the podcast. I don't know if I have. This manga did a really awesome thing where the author made 5 different endings for each of the love interests. Something that I think a lot of people would have wished that they did for the Quints. It was actually like brilliant that he
I'd
did.
say
Like
4/5 of them would wish for that.
it's probably more, honestly, if we're being honest here.
Yeah, wow.
But I think that's a really awesome way to conclude a story. But I would also argue that even in this one, the person who wins Route 1 was kind of the favorite throughout.
I would say so.
So that's just another interesting tidbit there. But this is certainly one where the anime didn't do a great job, I think, concluding it. I don't know if there wasn't enough manga out or what they did, or if they just were running out of time. But is concluded masterfully through the manga.
I would say so. Now the next one we're going to talk about is Masamune Kun's Revenge. And this one is finished. It's a 2-seasoner.
Yeah.
And yeah, throughout that one, it's very, like, I'd say mostly linear, where you know, like, what's going to happen, who he's going to try to go after, you know,
Yeah.
even if he's just doing it for quote-unquote revenge.
Yeah.
There are definitely some meddlers and some other characters who
A few,
have
yeah,
feelings.
for sure.
And they really do, like, trick you at the end of that thinking he's going to be with, like, one.
It is
he's not.
crazy.
And there is, like, a confession, like, I'd say maybe, like, 5 or 6 episodes before the end, but I still wouldn't call that middle of the road.
Was there that early?
It was semi-early in season 2.
Interesting.
But I would still say it's more on the end.
So
or more
that show
point
just
of the
pissed me off
finale.
that I've kind of blocked it out of my mind a little bit.
It's a good show, though.
Yeah, it did get better.
I get
for
you
sure.
got mad where they ended season 1, but don't erase the memories.
Yeah.
Because now you can just watch season 2 right after, and then there's the
Yeah. That's still like that. This
I mean,
is,
at the end of season 1, there's still like a little bit of closure, but
yeah. And this is a show that frustrated me more than some other ones, if I'm being honest, which is something we can talk about in the cons.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I was pretty frustrated with how they ended season 1, but I watched it like 2 years before they gave us a season 2. So,
Yeah.
but regardless, I'd say it's more of that finale romance.
It definitely is, yeah.
I'll talk about the next one, so you can talk about the last one.
Okay.
The last one is pure speculation by me because the anime's not finished. But
Yeah.
it's going in that
I
direction.
mean, come on, it's a romance.
The next one is Real Life, which is an underrated show. I actually just saw like an Instagram reel about this show earlier. I'm like, wow, that is a great one.
It was enjoyable, yeah.
Whereas like most of this show, like you don't even know what's gonna happen with the romance because the main character is like eventually gonna go back to being.
Yeah, like
27
kind
years
of can't
old.
really be romance, and then twists and turns.
But there is like a twist that makes it ethical.
Yeah.
And then but there's like 4 OVAs at the end, and that's where the romance happens.
Are they? They're technically like OVAs.
I think they're like OVAs.
Interesting.
But
I just
it's
remember
not
that
like a
the
4
sound
episode
quality
season.
was such.
Yeah, they're
garbage.
not part of the main like the season 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
I
I guess maybe it didn't get renewed, but they did enough to do. Like they had enough money to do.
mean, you
OVAs.
gotta at least finish the series. That was very nice of
It's
them to
not
do
true with
that.
many series.
Even though the audio quality of the dub on Crunchyroll, that was shows how like long ago it was because we decided we would watch the dub with just like horrible audio quality. Like the rest of it was
I have to
fine.
wonder if it
audio
was just
quality
fine
was
in,
great.
in sub.
Or well, yeah, it was fine in the dub, and then just like it sounded like you were listening through like your phone speaker.
I watch a
Way
lot
worse,
of
way
stuff
worse.
on my
Phone
phone.
speakers have come a
yeah.
long way. Sorry, that was
It's
a
like
bad
my
example.
iPad. And
Like a phone speaker that you got like a ton of water in,
Yeah.
and then you started. But yeah, we decided to watch it with that instead of the sub. So it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
A long time ago. And we got one more example I found.
Yeah, that's a good example. Don't Toy With Me, Nagatoro-san. Certainly, yeah, another one that starts off in a little bit of a low spot and then builds and builds and builds. But I think starting low gives you a lot of room for growth. And that's going to be one of the pros we talk about here is plenty of time to develop a couple before they're a couple. So, yeah, I think this is a good example. And, pure speculation on your part.
Of whether it's going to happen
Yeah.
or not. Yeah.
I like this manga has a fantastic ending. So
Can't wait then. Maybe eventually we'll get more anime.
I
What's
hope
it
so.
been now?
I hope so. It's been like
Was
2
that
years,
last
I
year or
think.
was that 23 that it
I
came
think it's
out?
been 2 years.
I don't know. There's so much stuff that like I'm like,
Who's
all
to
right.
say? Yeah, my brain is just
So
full.
like I think we'll just like start like set the statute of limitations like 4 years or 5 years. Then I'll just have to go ahead and read the manga.
I mean, you do. I'll read stuff like we could talk about this off screen, but there's some stuff that we just watched that I really want to read ahead in
Oh. Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
because God knows when. I mean, some of them we know we'll get more.
But yeah, so let's talk about some of the pros here.
Yeah, so I
some of the
mean,
pros.
of all these shows, like what it makes them different and special. You can go. I mean, you
All right,
took
so
most
the
of
first,
notes,
and this was probably the biggest pro, is that it's like the biggest moment in the show. That's
Yeah,
what it is. Like
yeah,
it's
the
the
whole show
climax, it's
builds
the
to it.
finale. It's pretty nice to see. Like it's cool to see like a show with a big ending.
Yeah, and I think like it's very difficult to end a story, but it is almost kind of safe
Yeah.
to write a romance where the ending is going to be they get together, as long as you execute it somewhat well. Like a lot of people are going to be happy. So yeah, it definitely. I think there's just an inherent positivity with this kind of ending. Yeah. I mean, like, and depending on the length of the show, you've waited how long for this, and it finally is there. You watch every single episode, wondering like, is it going to progress? Or is something going to happen? Are they going to get together? And then you finally get there, and it's a great feeling. It really is.
Absolutely. And the next one I put was there's more time to develop like before they become a couple. So it gives them some time to have some like individual character development and, see some development as a couple, and it helps you get more invested in them as characters and as a couple. If they're not like, right away dating, you might be like, oh, I don't know like why they're dating, or like I'm not as invested. So
Yeah.
it gives you more time to become invested.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll talk about this more with the other set of shows, but sometimes when the couple gets together earlier in the show, focus will shift afterward, and that can be a good thing for sure. But if you're watching the show for the main couple, that's what you're interested in. It's great to have as much development as possible, and especially like in some of the shows we mentioned, when you're starting from no relationship whatsoever to even a negative relationship that turns into a positive one, like there can be a lot of enjoyable stuff in there, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
I put the next thing down, and that kind of ties into what I just said. Like, the fun is in the chase. So, like, I think in romance, in fiction, and also kind of in real life, like, the chase is a lot of the fun. I think that watching your character strive toward a relationship with somebody can be a fun experience, especially when like they're bettering themselves along the way to be the person the other person needs them to be, and you hang on every little moment or thing that happens with the person they want to be with. You get like almost like a giddy feeling. It's just fun.
I agree. I like it in romance anime, and I'd say I agree with it in real life. I was just thinking about that now.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely liked more when I was like, before the age of internet dating, when I would like have a crush, and then if it happens, it happens, and it's like there's more of something built up there. When like now, if you're like on like Tinder or whatever, like. You go on a date and you've already shown so many of your cards. You're like, all right, I think this person's attractive enough to go out. Like, as long as you don't royally screw it up, it's gonna
Well,
happen.
maybe you talk about that they have a good profile too, not just that they're attractive enough to go out.
Well, that's the whole. I'm not
attractive
saying
enough,
looks.
and,
You can have an attractive personality, attractive interest.
Yeah, I see
Like
what you
attractiveness
mean. I was
doesn't just
making
mean
fun of
looks.
you, but yeah.
So, boom.
Boom.
Um,
And then the last one is something I said already, but if it's enjoyable and it's not dragging on, which is something we'll talk about in a con, more of a good thing's a good thing. If I really enjoy watching them develop, watching the chase, then if it continues and continues, great.
and continues.
You know,
and continues.
it can also build anticipation, which is awesome. But I think that in some shows, should the writing not continue to be enjoyable and an original, that can turn into a bad thing, obviously, which we can start to talk about now in the con section.
Yeah. So,
I'm the transition god too,
there you go, dude.
not just the
that
plug
would a
guy.
great segue. You're like Paul Blart.
Thank you. Wow, that was good.
Yeah, I thought of that one the other week and I didn't get to say it, so
Well,
glad I got to get that in there.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah, so moving to the cons, one of them is that it can just keep you waiting entirely too long sometimes.
Yeah,
Like like you said, if the writing's not good, it can just get boring. Like you're like, all right, like let's do it. Like let's
speed
get it
this
like a
thing up,
Band-Aid.
yeah.
Let's just rip it off.
yeah.
Like let's let it happen. I don't want to watch, 2 more seasons of this. Which most of the time I don't really ever feel that way. So I wouldn't say this applies to me too much, but I can definitely see how other people would be frustrated.
Yeah,
with
and
it.
speaking for the general public, yeah.
And then you just have like that whole time. It's like the will they or won't they thing. So maybe you're getting a little frustrated or anxious even. You're like, are they gonna do are they gonna mess this up?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. You'd be frustrated, anxious, bored. There's a
could.
lot of negative feelings you can have when it drags on past where you're interested. I mean, people probably also drop shows that are taking too long.
And that also
Rent-A-Girlfriend,
has
for
something to
example.
do with just how anime works. You might have to wait years before you find out. Sometimes it is nice to have a show where that happens early, and then if a second season doesn't come, all right, whatever. If it does, then it's just like a nice treat.
Treat?
No treat.
I think that's a good point. I guess I view it more in terms of the story overall, especially with manga because I'll just read ahead. But that is if you are strictly sticking to the anime, for example, if it's a light novel and we refuse to read, there's nothing against reading. I just thought that'd be funny to say. Yeah, I mean you don't even know if you're gonna get more. That's a painful thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's certainly been shows where it's just they haven't come back, and we're just sat here wondering what's going on.
Maybe someday, you know.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, and maybe the manga, the light novel, even could get canceled before they have.
I mean, that's.
And then at that point, they just have to, throw together some ending, which might just feel kind of anticlimactic or just not worth the wait.
Yeah, not satisfying. That's an ultimate fear. Yeah, that would be rough.
So yeah, those are. Oh, and the last con is you don't know if the relationship will last. Usually, it's.
Yeah, I find that interesting.
I would say, what that I would put that.
No, yeah, I want to hear what you have to
So,
say.
most of the time with the shows, they set it up and they're going to be happy. Sometimes they'll do a flash forward and you'll see they're happy in their.
I love a good epilogue.
I do like that, a little flash forward action. But, some of these shows, it just really is just headcanon, they're together forever. I would like to see some more of the future.
Yeah.
Or even just see how they work as a couple. Because, I've had. To bring it back to real life, in high school, I'm sure you can think of a couple examples yourself of these people who the whole time in high school, you're are they gonna date? Are they gonna date? They're perfect for each other.
Yeah,
and then they get together and then they break up 3 months later.
Mm-hmm.
Or as soon as they go to college, they break up. Mm-hmm. So I know it's an anime, and if they don't show you, I can think whatever I want. But sometimes I'm maybe.
Yeah.
I wonder what's gonna happen next. So I would put that in the con category.
No, I find that interesting. Yeah, I mean, I guess headcanon is always strong enough for me. But more so than that being a con, I would say a good epilogue is definitely a huge pro for me.
Well, I'd say, I guess a lot of them have epilogues.
Yeah.
I would say more often than not they don't, but I guess it depends. Let me real quick look at our examples. No epilogue. Epilogue.
No epilogue.
No epilogue. No epilogue.
Oh, I'm looking at the wrong one.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's some of them do, some of them
I'm
don't.
looking at the wrong
So,
list.
I think it's nice and it adds value to see like all these characters years later and they're still together or
Yeah.
something like that. But
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you don't need it. I don't really worry about it too often, but sometimes I'm like, like something could happen and ruin this.
Well, yeah, certainly true.
All right. Anything else you want to add for
I'm
Endgame
content.
romances, we'll call them?
I'm content.
All right, so we're going to talk
We're
about
in the
some
Endgame
shows where
now.
the romance really... Well, not the romance, but like the getting together happens before the finale.
Once again, spoilers.
Yeah, well, once we talk about it, they're not going to know we're spoiling until we say it. But these ones are not as big spoilers because the romance happens early.
Yeah, it seems like
Sometimes early and
less
often.
time.
We'll talk about a couple examples there.
a couple examples.
I have two.
All right.
So the first
That's so
example,
true.
which I would say, with just like Toradora for me is like the gold standard of romance, or the couple getting together early on in the show, and that
Yeah.
is Horimiya.
I would agree that this is what I would think of.
That was the first example that popped into my mind.
Yeah.
Maybe I also did like watch both of those shows in the same week.
Time. That's crazy. Yeah.
I was like, I had like off. I was the only one home. I don't think I had COVID, but like I was just like chilling all up.
Straight chilling like a villain.
Yeah, like I took like a staycation from work because I'm like, I got the crib to
Mad
myself.
respect. Yeah, mad
Which
respect.
was a dumb idea because like 2 days in, I'm like, I need to talk to people.
Yeah, fair enough.
Especially after like finishing shows. You ever get like post finishing a show depression?
Okay.
I get it something fierce.
Yeah, I mean, like I
have to
guess I more so just want to talk about it.
I
with
have to
somebody.
contemplate my life after finishing a show.
That's good to know.
Like how like what does life mean? What is the meaning of everything?
Yeah.
Not like I get like really sad, but I'm just like, what is everything?
Yeah, you're left with a hole.
Yeah,
Emptiness.
kind of. But yeah, Horimiya is one where it does really happen early, and we get to see how the main couple develops throughout the rest of the show, which is
Yeah.
nice to see the relationship grow and makes me feel a little more confident that they're going to be together forever.
Yeah, in a short time, because before they had filled in some of the gaps of the manga with the second show, Missing Pieces. This did a great job getting them together early, progressing them, and then also starting to shift the focus to some of the other side characters, which I think can be a pro or a con. We'll talk about that later, depending on who you are. But personally, I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
They did a lot with a short amount of time, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah, they really did. It was it's
For it to like it doesn't
action packed.
it feels deep, and even before like their get together, like they do have a good amount of, especially Miyamura has a good amount of character development
Yeah,
before
yeah.
he's in a relationship. So
Yeah,
they do so much in such a short time.
yeah.
Hence why it's one of our top 10. Check out our deep dive on Horimiya.
So true.
That's come
So
out.
true.
Yeah. All right, you want to talk about this next one?
For sure.
This is a you show.
For sure. So like when Angelo and I were initially talking about this, at first we described it as like early game versus late game, and then we kind of rethought it just to be able to have more examples, as what I described earlier. Does the show end with the couple getting together, or is there more after? The next thing I'm going to talk about is Kaguya-sama Love is War, where it still takes a pretty long bit for our main couple to get together. And honestly, if it ended there, I'm satisfied. But there's a lot more content afterward. And so far, we only have a movie after the big confession. But there's a lot more manga content, which hopefully gets animated one day. I thought the show was popular enough too, but who's to say? But I think this does an awesome job spending a lot of time to build up for the relationship, giving it to us, giving us more progression afterward, which you'll see eventually, and then somewhat shifting the focus to other characters, but still doing a really good job keeping the focus on our main couple, which is kind of a rebuttal to the pro/con I just gave about the last show being shifted focus. I think this just does a good job juggling that afterward, which if you haven't read the manga you don't fully understand, but I think this is kind of a best of both worlds situation to me a little bit.
Yeah, this is like middle or a little
Yeah.
after the middle, I'd say.
Mid game.
All right, so moving on. This is one of-
You're going to talk about the next ones after.
All right, you do this one. You do this
For
one.
sure. I'm actually stoked that you added this as an example. Because this doesn't get a lot of shine.
Not enough. Probably the most underrated show we've ever
I
watched.
I agree. This is one of the funniest things I've ever watched in my life. Gamers! Exclamation point. 13 episodes of just pure chaos.
Yeah.
So funny. So funny. I would do an episode on this show one day, and there's only 13 episodes, and we have no clue how it ends. Because it's a light novel.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about looking up some cliff notes the other day.
Just read, I feel like we could just read.
Yeah, but where do you even get the light novel?
Online, I'm sure somewhere.
I don't
I'm not a pirate, by the way. Arg, I'm not a pirate. Online somewhere, though.
Okay.
But this is another one that our main couple gets together early. By accident, kind of, but also...
Yeah, he goofs it up.
Yeah.
Instead of asking to will you be my friend, he says, will you go out with me?
Oh, that's such a funny scene, dude. It's such a funny scene.
That's the best scene. in the
And this show,
I'd say.
it does a great job building tension for scenes like that. To a comic proportion, for sure. It's definitely meant to be funny, exaggerative humor. But damn, it's great. It's great. And then, you get some extra development after, but also it's just more chaos after they get together. And there's other challengers and confusion and just fun.
Yeah,
all around fun.
What I'm hearing is rewatch a Gamers.
I think so, too.
With notes so we
think
can
so,
do an
too.
episode about it.
I thought of this show also when you were just talking about your post-show depression. In our most recent rewatch of the show, we never watched the last episode because we didn't want to let go.
The last episode, regardless, still has nothing to do with the story.
No, it's true. It's almost as if it was going to continue, and then they just cut the show.
Or it's like an OVA, kind of.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, too. But yeah, thank you for putting that on there. I'm happy to gush about Gamers.
Yeah, me too. But I agree, 100% with everything you said. Great show. The next one we're going to talk about, and this is one of the examples of get together early and often.
Yeah.
This is the 100 Girlfriends Who Really, 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 Really Love You. Really, no, I think I said it for really, 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 really love you. So this one, when does he get his first girlfriend?
Probably
Are they
the first
episode 1 or
episode,
2?
Yeah, it's got to be the first
It might be
episode.
2. They give them a little more time than usual. But
because the first 2 are the goated, too.
I feel like this is kind of different than the other shows we've talked about, whereas this is just there's not much build up and much development before or after with the girlfriends. It's just a gotta catch them all situation. How many girlfriends can he get? 100 eventually. I really love this show. It's very lighthearted, not super deep in the romance aspects.
Oh, you don't say.
I mean, there's some good.
There is, but
there's
how
some
deep
good
is the show with
developments.
100 Girlfriends going to get?
Yeah. I'd say it gets as deep as it could,
Yeah,
and it's
yeah.
about as wholesome as it
As
could
deep
be.
as you want it to be.
Yeah.
That was a deep cut reference right
But
there.
this, so I'm trying to think of how it would play into our pros and cons.
I have thoughts and feelings. I think it does a good job balancing the girlfriends once you get new girlfriends. It's not like a shifting focus to side characters. It's just shifting focus to other girlfriends. But you still get some development with the previous girlfriends. Definitely the first 2, you get the most development. We're getting some of that now. But I think this is a good example of that part. Obviously, there's no will they, won't they whatsoever.
It's like, will they or will they?
Yeah. Just
or when will they?
When will
Yeah.
they? So I think that's definitely good. Now, you could complain that you don't get to see a ton of development in the relationships because there's just so many and it's constantly going.
But it's not that kind of show.
Yes, and
yes, but
no, I'm kidding.
it's just not that kind of show.
Yeah, no, definitely not. I'm just, I'm trying to shoehorn it into our pros and cons.
No, I think you did a good job already, man. It
Thank
just
you.
it's a good example of romance that happens early and often. But another early and often show is Girlfriend. Not to the same extent as 100 Girlfriends, because he's only got 2. I'd say probably 2 and 2 halves, so 3 basically.
Yeah.
At this point, but he gets a second girlfriend in episode 1 or 2.
I mean, it's the main point of the whole show.
Yeah, that's why it's called Girlfriend.
It's funny how that works.
But this one, there's a lot of good development there's a development with them as a couple and as like a throuple, a love polygon.
Yeah.
Just trying to, learn how to coexist, not step on each other's toes, and, just be happy and healthy. So it does have some development in that sense. And you're able to like let your guard down a little bit with that, not be worrying there. But there is still some will there, won't they? Because there are, a couple more challengers. One pretty early on in season 1, and then one, that kind of shows her card season 2. So
Yeah.
And who knows where it goes from there? This is another one we're waiting on. It's been probably like a year, 2 years now. So
another season?
I don't think so. I'm getting ready to read
it
the
might be
manga for
cooked.
this. I was actually going to the other day, but then I decided to read 2.5D instead. Which I stand by that decision.
Good
That's
choice.
a
I mean,
great
girlfriend,
show.
girlfriend, I like a little better, but the other one's good too.
Really?
Yeah, I came to like girlfriend a good bit,
Oh, I really like 2.5D.
especially season 2. I'm trying to think like when we got the season 2 announcement for girlfriend. It definitely was a decent bit after the first season.
Well, the first season came out, and then we watched it dubbed years later because the dub came out years later.
Mm-hmm. So then, yeah,
There was a
it definitely
huge
took a
gap
lot of
between
time.
season 1 and 2.
Yeah, so hope is not lost yet.
But yeah, it is. You do. This one's kind of I would say the best of both worlds, I guess, because you do get the part of like the couple happening early, getting some development with them as a couple. But then you're also like, will they or won't they? Like, what's going to happen next?
Yeah,
you just
that's
sometimes you
true.
don't know, so there's still some excitement building.
Yeah,
of,
I mean, you're still on the edge of your
is he
seat.
going to be able to have 3 girlfriends?
Like,
What is the limit of this man's moral compass? He really has stood by it though with 2. He's like, I can't do this to Saki,
like 2
and
is,
I can't do this to
is enough.
Nagisa. So that's where he draws the line.
I mean, I respect.
But he did agree to have like a temporary girlfriend.
Yeah, like a provisional.
Yeah, I don't know how that works, but
I don't either.
that's a whole different
I don't
ethical
either.
debate.
She rips though, so.
But you want to move on to the next one?
For sure. Next one we thought of here is Our Dating Story, the inexperienced you and the experienced me, right?
Nope.
Other way around.
The experienced
about it
you
from
and
her-
the inexperienced me.
From her point of view.
No, it's from his.
Guy asks most popular girl in school out in
Is
the
it
first
like a
episode.
dare?
I think it's a dare. His friends are definitely watching him.
Like, I think they're encouraging him to do it. Like, he doesn't expect anything to come from
Well,
it.
naturally. And then she says yes, and then, the show goes on from there. But this is one where it happens so early. Our main characters don't know each other. So literally all of the development comes after the relationship has started, which I think is interesting. It's kind of cool to get to see them get to know each other. Obviously, I think it's a little unrealistic, but it's anime we're talking about. We just talked about a dude with 100 girlfriends. Like,
Yeah, but I think there's a lot of good development, with her trying, I don't remember their names, but with her trying, discovering that her self-worth, that she doesn't need to always say yes to everything. And, with him getting used to, what are you doing?
my head's a little itchy.
Yeah, well, you're getting all kinds of dust on me.
I'm sorry.
And it sounds bad.
I didn't even think about the sound.
Yeah, I don't know
You
why.
haven't thought of the smell.
But they really do get a lot of development, and it's not like 100. Not 100%.
Talking about making
I just dropped
noise,
the pen.
dude.
It's not 100% like let your guard down because there are some like hiccups along the way.
Yeah, for
arguments. I think that is a really good show. I did like it. It took it pretty
sure. Yeah, I
seriously.
enjoyed it. Yeah.
But yeah,
Not
anything
enough
else
to
you want to add
remember
on
the
that one?
characters' names, but
No, they weren't super easy names to remember though. You
Yeah.
want to move on to the next
yeah,
one?
yeah.
I can talk about
yeah,
it.
go ahead, rip.
The last one is Shikimori's not just a cutie. This one starts off, and the main couple is already together with Shikimori and the guy whose name I don't remember.
Yeah.
But this one I wouldn't say.
No, either.
This is a fine show, but there's really not much development regardless.
No, I mean this is kind of like slice of lifey, I would say.
Yeah, like they're already established. There is like another girl who likes him, but like, it's obviously not going to happen. He's already dating the
Yeah.
girl he's in love with.
She
so-
kind of reminds me of Asahi from Medica.
I
The
guess.
Challenger. Is she athletic in that show?
Yes, but Shikimori is too.
Yeah. Well, she's not just a cutie.
Yeah, well, yeah. So yeah, that's our last example. Not a ton of development, but it is one where it happens early. So this is a really good like let your guard down, just sit back and enjoy.
Yeah,
Don't think too
yeah,
much
which-
kind of show. Like
yeah,
it's not.
there's-
It doesn't really throw many curveballs, so it's really easy to watch. It's not as deep, but I'd still still say it's a good watch.
Yeah, there's certainly something to be said about that. And yeah, I think just slice of lifey fun with a couple involved is good. So let's rip through real quick here our pros and cons for this type of show, and then I think at the very end we'll talk about if we have a preference or not, which we have not discussed previously.
I'm sure you can tell though. Actually, no. I've been
I
pretty good with both sides.
Well, we haven't done the pros and cons for this.
All right. So let's let it ride.
Yeah, go ahead. You think you put?
The first pro is that it doesn't keep you waiting.
Waiting sucks.
Which
waiting's the hardest part in life.
Yeah. So if something happens, the show gets canceled, never gets a second season, never gets a third season, whatever it may be, you're not left with like man, I want to know how this ends. Because, you already kind of know how it ends.
Yeah.
You just are missing some of the good times along the way and maybe a little bit of development, but not keeping you waiting is a huge pro.
Yeah, I mean, patience isn't really my strong suit, so I definitely like that as a pro. Obviously, we just talked about how great it can be to wait things out and see so much along the way. But at the end of the day, there's something to be said about not having to wait.
All right.
That was some long silence there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about how we're going to discuss our preferences afterwards.
We'll get there when we get there.
We'll talk about it
in the
then.
moment. Just let it go.
So we get to see the development of the relationship, which I put that of development before for a con for the relationship happening later. But happening early, it's still nice to see them develop as a couple.
Yeah.
So you get to see, like I said, you're going to know if they are even compatible dating or some of these shows like living together.
True, actually.
Girlfriend.
Yeah.
Great example of that. But getting to see if they're compatible. Because like I've said, not everything, like you may like somebody, but once you start dating, it just, it might not be meant to be. So it's nice to know, like, them get over the early hiccups of a relationship and we get to see them overcome all that.
Yeah. Next point here kind of goes in line with waiting, but also like you don't have that will they, won't they, which when drug out can lead to frustration. You don't have to worry about that in this type of show, or at least generally, like depending on when they get together. But I think that could be an overplayed trope that some people are tired of. Mm-hmm. So not having to worry about it could be a good thing.
Absolutely. The other one I had is that you can let your guard down a bit.
Yeah.
As somebody who does sometimes get anxious watching things, it is nice to, just chill and watch something.
Yeah.
Now I've said some of these shows you do still have to be like worry about some stuff because not everything sunshines and rainbows, but it is nice to not have that part of like, oh my god, like what's gonna happen?
Oh my god!
Like, please let it happen. It plays hand in hand with the will they or won't they.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, I added this next one too.
I like the way you worded this.
More show good. And that's like saying for some of these shows where it happens more towards the middle, sometimes you'll get a longer show. If the show was to end where this relationship starts, then you're missing out on plenty of good content. You're missing out on some of those developments, some of those things, and you're just missing out on generally like good times. Like, I'm a fan of a lot of these shows. A lot of them I wish they could just have like extra seasons, even after the romance of just them going on dates or whatever, the friends hanging out, like just low stakes, just having fun. I'm a huge fan of that. Some of these shows you do get that, but if every show had it, I would like it. I know a lot of people wouldn't. They like everything to be very much with purpose, but I'm much more of a, just enjoy the journey.
Go with the flow, yeah. Sounds good. And then the last pro that also I think I'll use to shift this into the con, because it really just depends on who you are, how characters resonate with you, what you enjoy. And that is can sometimes shift focus to side characters after the main couple gets together. I think about in this Horimiya, like we talked about, and I think about some of my buddies who had watched read that in the past, especially when I was first watching it, and hearing them talk about how they didn't like all the focus on the side characters. They didn't really care about the side characters, and that, kind of either, I don't remember if they said they dropped it or if it just, once the main couple was together, that was it, or you got to see some development. I don't know. But that was the first time I had ever heard this from a negative point of view. Whereas I think, well, I know you also view it as a positive. I think it's fun. I really do. It's almost like overtime.
Yeah, it's like if you want there to still be a big purpose to the show after they're already dating, everything's
Yeah.
established. It gives you that.
You're going into extra innings, and there's
I don't
some fun
need
other
it,
stuff.
but I'm certainly a fan of seeing, some of these other couples that they've hinted at a little bit, finally getting some major screen time or book time. I don't know how you say that in a manga.
Book time.
But yeah, so moving on here, this is, I'd say, the biggest con is that the relationship, like the initial getting together, might not be as big of a moment if it's not the end of the series.
Yeah, and that's just natural with less build, I think.
I mean, there are some of these shows where it happens earlier that still have like big moments, like Kaguya, and you do get a lot of build up to it.
Yeah,
but
which I'd argue
if
3
it's not
seasons
like
of build up is still a lot.
but most shows aren't like that. The ones that do it early.
Yeah.
Most of the time. But when it's the finale, it really is like all this time you've invested, all the hours, whatever, it's building towards this moment. And when that's the end, it's, it's just the biggest moment.
No,
Because it couples with the big, like, relationship thing and then also the ending of the series. So that compounds to make it just a huge moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I like kind of some of the things you've said in this episode and just in the past about
Hey, thanks, man.
a journey when you're watching something. If you're watching something to get to the end and for the end and that's the end, it's huge. It's huge. But yeah, I think when you take your perspective and look at it as a journey, it's just different.
Yeah, I mean, even so, like, I think I'm definitely more of, like, a journey guy.
Yeah.
Like I've said, you've cited me saying that I say it.
Yeah, I don't think you do like Journey very much.
Huh?
At least not Don't Stop Believing.
Nah, that's good. I like Journey as a band,
Okay.
but that song sucks.
I'm sorry to hear that. I think
You
it's a
can quote
great,
me
it's a
on
great
that.
song.
It's a fine song. It's just ridiculously overplayed.
Yeah.
Probably the most overplayed song of all time.
It could be.
Regardless, even if I'm just watching it and I like to enjoy the journey, I still do like the big moment. It's not like I'm just watching it just to get to the end as soon as possible. But I think you can still enjoy as you go and still want that big moment at the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess that's a better way to put it. Another con here, and this kind of ties in with a pro from previous type of show, the fun is in the chase type beat. When it happens earlier, I mean, you don't have all those little moments that lead up to the big moment, or at least just less so. Where you're excited about little bits of progress and taking baby steps and stuff like that. That's just is less of a feature of this type of anime, which I really enjoy. So I put that as a con, but it doesn't. If it's not your cup of tea, it's not necessarily a con.
I would say, generally speaking, most people do like the chase.
Yeah, I do agree. And then the last con we have here, I already kind of talked about with shifting focus to side characters and that not always being the best if you're in it for the main couple.
Yeah. So I think that covers both parts really well.
Yeah.
So what I think we should do is we're going to say early or late what we prefer. We'll count down from 3, and we'll both say it at the same time. Early or late. Okay, you ready?
On 3 or after 3?
It'll be like 1, 2, 3, and then... Or 3, 2, 1, and then say.
Okay, I like
you
it.
obviously can't, I'm not going to say 3, 2, early or late.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I know. I know you're referencing. I just wanted to clarify.
My references are out.
Not
of
everybody
control.
understands your crazy references,
Yeah.
All right, 3, 2, 1, early.
Yeah,
That's what I figured. I could tell by the way you're talking and how the way I feel. So, I don't know. I'm a sucker for it happening later. Like it's just like makes the build up. And
You mean earlier? Didn't you say early?
Oh, did I mean to say early?
You definitely said it. I said late.
I meant to say late. We're the same. We can edit that out.
We are not the same.
No, we
These
won't.
baby
It's
teeth.
candid. Sorry, fellas and ladies.
I want to hear now.
What? No, I definitely said early.
Yeah, you definitely.
I
did.
meant to say
which is
late.
kind of what I thought you were going to say because you were talking pretty passionately. But,
About early?
yeah.
Nah, I prefer it happening late. I like the
Okay.
big build
Well,
up
go
to
ahead.
be.
Get stand on your soapbox.
Well,
and then-
honestly, I'd probably like say middle because then there's more show there.
for sure. I
And
think
you
you
get
know
to
my
see
favorite
both
romance
ends
is
of the-
Kaguya, and there's that.
You get to see both ends of the spectrum, but that wasn't an option.
Okay.
So if you're saying early or late, I
All right,
would
3,
say
2, 1.
late. There we go. That's perfect. No, I'll leave that in an extra candid moment. You know.
Oh, for sure.
We
I'm not
don't really
cutting.
do. We don't do
I've
any
never cut
edits.
anything. Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I meant to say late. I do prefer it to happen at the end. If you're looking at the shows here on the late list, like boom, 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 3 of my top 10 right there.
Yeah.
Whereas the before has 1 in my top 10.
For me, it has 2. Is
So-
Harmony in my top 10? No, it was in your top 10, right?
Yes, it's
I
right
don't know,
outside of
so
your top
yeah,
10.
It's close. But no, dude, I agree. The fun is in the chase. I'll keep saying like I very much like to watch shows like with a purpose. I very much show, the ending of a show means a lot to me. It takes. I like looking at things as a journey, but I more so take a step back and look at a story as a whole, and obviously the ending is a huge piece of a whole. So yeah, that's why I prefer that.
Well, it's like part of the journey is, it's not necessarily, they don't have to be together for it to be a journey.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if you're saying the journey as a couple, then I'd prefer it to happen in the middle or the beginning.
Yeah.
Because at the end you don't know what's going to happen. But like I said, very rarely do I even think about if they're going to end up together forever, because most of these shows they'll show, or a lot of these shows will show you,
Yeah.
and they've just established so much. So you're like, no,
Yeah.
nothing could ruin this.
No.
But yeah, maybe because we talked about the late game romance first, that in my head it was just early.
I don't know, dog.
Like
I don't know.
I thought about it.
I
I'm like,
I
know what
didn't
I'm
think
gonna
for a
say.
second because that's what I thought you were gonna say.
No, I prefer it to
That's
happen
interesting.
later. But we agree on it. It's just
Yeah.
I didn't think we did
Good stuff.
because I am stupid.
Fair. We're talking's hard. Talking's hard.
Yeah, dude. Life
So,
is heavy.
Life is heavy.
But yeah, I think that's a wrap on this one.
Yeah, I think so too.
Tune in
I
next
think
week
so, too. That
for
was a lot of fun, a
our
lot of laughs.
Euroline April deep dive. This
Are you
one's gonna be-
guaranteeing that it's coming
I'm
next week?
saying
or-
it so I guarantee I
Okay.
finished watching the series. I had started it.
Sounds good.
I'm like, I'm gonna finish the whole thing in a week, but I'm like a little over halfway through.
I mean, look, life is
So.
heavy. So
So next week, your Lion April deep dive. This one's gonna be a bit of a roller coaster. So
yeah, it sounds good to me. I'm intrigued to see how many parts we go. If we go more than one.
I don't know. There's so much to talk about,
There
but it is a
definitely
shorter
is, yeah.
show, so
Yeah.
who knows? I don't think it'll be a 3-parter like JJK.
No. I mean, a few
But
things,
yeah,
haven't we?
catch us next week.
Peace.